Hey guys, just playing a bit of ranked. Gonna compete with one of the decks that I'm currently fiddling around with. It's a Forestcraft deck, considered like a a bread and butter kind of Forestcraft deck. Let's just kind of get to the deck tech first. Let's kind of review the deck, kind of walk through the general idea of it, and let's just do that. Let's get right into it. So let's start right off the bat at our ones. Right at our one slot, we have the Fire Sprite Grove. This is really just to kind of give us, ample amount of fairies, so we can do a bit of the kind of recursive, kind of add, get additional value out of our cards, right? Forestcraft tends to, you need to at least play two of those, at least two creatures, and then the third card has extra value, so this kind of gives us the ability to get a bit of fairies. The water fairy, I consider it a pretty good card. If you really think about it, you're getting about two power out of it, two power, two toughness out of it. So it's a pretty strong card. Again, also it fills up your hand with fairies, so that's not too bad. Airbound Barrage, this is kind of where you kind of get a recursive element out of it, right? Because by kind of using this card, you kind of get an additional activation of some of the fanfare mechanics that come within the deck. At our 2 slot, again, we have the Fairy Whisperer. We have Fairy Dragon. This is one of those cards that I'm actually kind of considering removing, because I really haven't seen it pay off in any way. By the time you kind of play it like late for it to be so significant enough, the 4 toughness is really kind of punishes it. It really kind of hurts it. Then we got 1 Insect Lord. I only have 1 Insect Lord. It's a pretty good card. Still, you're kind of happy to have it late game. Early game, you're kind of not happy to see it. So, I'm not sure if I want too many of these. Then you have Sylvan Justice. It's a bit of a early game removal, and then one of our kind of staples in Elf Song. At 3, we have I don't know how to say this, Babbed Katha. Only one of them. I only have one of them. This is kind of used as for an anthem effect. Really, like I really don't not consider playing it at the 3 cost. The enhanced 6 and the enhanced 9 is probably the best. Ideally you play it at an enhanced 6 to kind of anthem the creatures that you currently have on board. And then we have Beetle Warrior, which is kind of our kind of 1-2 punch, right? Ideally played at turn 5 to kind of get a bit of early damage in. I mean, games going long isn't really good for this Forestcraft deck, considering the fact that it really doesn't have like big finishers. And it really relies on kind of incremental, like small incremental benefits. Another kind of important piece of this is kind of the Grasshopper Conductor. This is kind of where you kind of get a additional benefit out of playing all these cards, to get additional cards in hand. You're not going to really win like a game of attrition with some of like the more late game oriented decks, but against an early game deck, kind of having the additional cards really kind of puts the game in your favor. All right, at the 4 point we have a Goblin Leader. It's it's just generally a good card. You're looking at maybe about 3 power, 5 toughness at 4, which is a pretty good cost. Typically, the opponent has to deal with it at turn 4, because if not, you're going to kind of start building up a kind of board state by him just staying there. So they kind of typically, it forces their hand to kind of use, you know, evolve points, because typically, because we're playing a lot of we're building the early game board. um, they're 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 kind of forced to respond to our board state. So the Goblin Leader is a really good kind of way to kind of draw out their evolution points by and forcing them to use those points to kill our Goblin Leaders. The Oceanus, yeah, I don't really know why I have this card. It's a decent card. It's really to get that Ruthless Water Spout to kind of get rid of some of their bigger threats. Fairy Driver, it's a one of, not too many of them, because again, you're not too happy to see like two ofs in your hand, right? You really want to have one and kind of have a whole bunch of fairies to play out. In the few games I have played, it really hasn't paid off that much, because you're trying to build your board state fairly early in the game. So by about turn 4, you really don't have a fairies on hand, or if you do have fairies on hand, I mean, if you play it on turn 4, he'll get removed, and you play it on turn 6, turn 6 or turn 5 or turn 6 to like get five cost for like 2 storm damage doesn't really it's not really that attractive. But I'm still keeping it in there just to see, maybe you'll run into a situation where it becomes useful. And then another one of is Force Whispers. Again, it's a way to get rid of their big threats. At 5, we have Goblin Princess. Again, kind of just pure value. We have a Jungle Warden, which is a one of. Ideally, I'm probably going to add another one. I think Jungle Warden is probably your best late game. Your best late game. It comes down for about 8 damage. Storm at level 10. At turn 10. And then it leaves 2 kind of ward creatures that they kind of have to deal with. So the chances for a direct crackback isn't as high. And then we have 1 Venus for the Harvest Festival. Again, getting the Harvest Festival, getting the additional cards really kind of adds to the benefit. Kind of helps us grind out kind of games against other more early game oriented decks. And then just kind of round it off, we have 1 Crystal Aaron. It's not really a finisher. It's to help you kind of. It's really to get that 1 additional evolution point, so that again, against early game oriented decks, that the game of attrition kind of becomes more important. Like ideally, this deck against kind of late game decks, you establish your board state long enough or early enough and deal enough damage to them early enough that by turn 10, like the Jungle Warden will be able to kind of close out the game. But against like early game decks, having cards like this where it's a ward, which is super important, and the recovering and the evolution point kind of helps grind out your games. And then Yggdrasil, I don't know what it is. I'm not too convinced about this. Neither the Blessing or Creation or Wrath of Nature actually kind of really plays into it. Because by turn 7, having a 2/6 drain is kind of underwhelming. And yeah, drawing 2 cards is great, or giving a creature like +1 and rush is okay. For both for 0 cost is not too bad, but like it's just very underwhelming. So I'll most likely kind of replace this with maybe another Jungle Warden, or if possible, another Crystalia or whatever it is. So that's kind of the deck in a nutshell. Then we're just going to play a few games, and we're going to kind of see what works well and what doesn't work very well, to kind of help continually kind of enhance the deck. Alright, so this is a Havencraft deck, so ideal, this is pretty much ideal situation, depending on which Haven deck it is. If it's the life gain Haven deck, it's our kind of worst nightmare. If it's the more like amulet-based countdown Haven deck, we kind of have a bit of an advantage. That's a great starting hand. You get the Fire Sprite Grove to start building up those elves in the hand, and you have an elf song to kind of pay off for having those additional elves in hand. Again, you see like the Fairy Dragon having it now, it's kind of like, who really cares, right? It's just a 0/4 ward, really doesn't pay off early game, and late game, again, it doesn't have storms, it doesn't really kind of seem to make punch. Alright, let's see what he does. So off to a good start. Nothing, no board presence at the beginning. Kind of allows us to kind of put some pressure on him early. Probably play the fairy, unless I get a better play. But ideally, I'm looking for another 2-drop that will replace the fairy dragon. The fairy dragon is just kind of blah. There's no point to it. Oh, this is good. This kind of shows sign that this might be a more amulet-based deck. We got an Inset Lord early. I might just run it out because one, I want to kind of build out a board state and just start hitting him for damage, and yeah, that's generally it. So I'm gonna actually put him out. I know there's not much of an advantage to be playing him right now, but you just want to have him out there. Okay, I'm gonna play the Beetle Warrior. I know this is gonna count down and destroy a creature, but like it's a 50-50. So I think the chances are good enough that I don't actually particularly care about the 50-50. Not to mention with the elf song and the fairies, I'll be able to build a stronger board state and really start racking up some damage on them. It's got a Happy Pig. So I'm just gonna play the 2 fairies, elf song. So a little bit of kind of insight on kind of playing these types of decks when you're the second player. Since you have the additional evolution point and you're also the one who's kind of building the board state, you shouldn't be afraid to essentially burn off evolution points to kind of force the trade-off. Force him to start using his evolution points as well. No, damn it. So I'm going to play it out, evolve, and actually just trade with him. Reason being is that, again, I'm more than happy to get the Goblin King out of it. I've already got the benefit of having the 2 goblins. And essentially, I'm willing to kind of race damage with him. Like, you want to go to him into a race. You want him to either try to waste time taking out your lesser value creatures, or straight up race with him. Now that he's put a Tenko Shrine, so this is actually a life gain deck, but he's not really got that much life gain, so I'm not particularly afraid of it. Yeah, you know what? I think I'll just commit. Just kind of spread out my threats, so that hopefully the Tenko Shrine doesn't target my Goblin King. I have the base creature on the board, so I'm kind of happy with what I have right now. Well, second Tenko Shrine. What? That is not good at all. That was the best case scenario. So I have Yggdrasil, or I have the 2 fairy dragons. There's only 2 fairies, so there are 2 4s that come in. Not particularly interesting. So I'm actually going to put that down. I need to refill my hand. I don't really care about Rush. Great, there's nothing in my hand that really cares about the number of creatures played, so I'm just going to refill my hand with the 2 cards and attack him directly. So we're in a situation where he has, no more evolution points, so he can't directly immediately deal with what I have. Let's see. Right? He has a rush character, it doesn't really matter. Ideally, you want to get rid. Oh. Is it any creature? Oh wow, it's much better than I thought. Oh, that's annoying. Okay, so I'm going to have to start loading up threats. So I'm going to get rid of the little shrine lady thingy. Play the Venus. Play the hand. Like this is like the worst case scenario at all. Oh, maybe we get to squeak a win because that person's not paying attention. I guess I win. W's a W. But again, those two fairy dragons, kind of disappointing. Maybe I'll look into seeing what I would rather replace them with. The idea of those two cards are really good, you know, because they pay off with have so much damage, or could have so much damage. But the fact that they have ward as opposed to rush or storm really makes them kind of underwhelming, because there's no suddenness to it. There's no suddenness to it. Alright, let's see who we're up against. Okay, Bloodcraft. This is probably also a bad matchup. You know, we're trying to win on board state and tempo. And I think that typically Bloodcraft beats us on it only because the value of their creatures are higher. And they tend to have more things with Storm and Rush, where ours are kind of a bit more slower. Ooh. You know, not too bad. Many elf songs, which kind of pays off, you know, really adds to it. So I'm just going to burn off an elf song, get some elves in hand. Next turn I'll probably play the Grasshopper. Then turn 4, play an elf song. Turn 5, with the 2 fairies from the elf song, do 1/2 Beetleborg and smash in. See, like their value of creatures like immediately kind of storm hits. Where it's I'm a bit more slower. I have to soak in a bit more damage than they do. The Insect Lord kind of changes it, depending on what they play now. I might end up playing the Insect Lord. They immediately hit Vengeance, which is interesting. So I might actually be interested in actually playing Insect Lord. No, probably not, actually. So let's see. So playing the Fairy Elf. Yeah, I'll still do the Fairy Elf song. Right. Right, because I hit him with the 1/2 Beetleborg, or 1/2 Beetle Boys, Beetle Warrior, whatever. So he's going for board state as opposed to my face, which is great. I would rather go straight for the dome, so you know, I constantly put that pressure on them, and we'll see if they crack. Because if they waste their time kind of taking out their fairies, you know, I'll hit them with for another 3 here. So you can probably play 1, 2, 3. Ideally, I'd like to elf song, but we'll see what happens. Because then it'd be 1, 2, 3. I should have burnt the evolution point. Oh, so building up some wards, which is bad for me because I can't really deal with them immediately. And yeah, I think I might have lost this one. Let's see. shit. Whoops. Yeah, I didn't play this smart. Otherwise I lose. Yeah, I kind of had a feeling this was going to happen. You know, again, the whatever blood thingies, those guys are Bloodcraft. Probably my worst matchup. And those stupid wards. Those wards really fucked me. Maybe I could put something that deals with wards. Alright, let's play the start game and we'll see if we can, best get the 2 out of 3. The first game, we're probably going to lose that, but regardless, a win's a win. Okay, Fairy Dragon, no. Goblin Leader, maybe. Airborne Brush, no. Ooh. Who is this? Also Forestcraft. Let's see what they play. Maybe I could take some ideas off of them. Oops. Nothing. Play something so I can blast it with the Justice. Yeah, there's this card. I don't know if it's a good card or not. Should really look into it. Okay. So I'll probably play the Goblin Leader. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. Instead of hitting them with damage, reduce their board. Good. I don't know, this card looks like a good turn 2 play. What do I do? She is. Probably just run out the Goblin Princess. Definitely evolve. Yeah, I think I'm gonna take out one of the creatures. So ideally, if nothing happens next turn, I can play Babbitt. Babbitt. This guy's really holding on to his evolution points. Okay. Worried? Yeah, I think I'm fine. I don't think I need to be worried. Goblin King. Oh, let's see, Fairy Driver. So what, nets maybe 8 damage? 8 damage. 10 damage on me? It's not great. It's not the best. Do I do it back? Or do I just get rid of the driver? Good question. Do I do it back? Interesting. Actually just play Music Drill, Wrath of Nature it. Right, net that 3 life. And get rid of the Fairy Driver. And then just clear up the board. What the hell is this? Oof, not good, not good. What the hell is this? There's 2 cards were played. So I think now if I start playing the Fairy Driver, payoff. So instead of playing anything else, I think I'm, can I do 6 damage? No, probably not. So I'm just gonna Force Whisper. And force them to just use up all his fairies on that one card. He only has 1 card left, so I might be grinding him out. Never mind. Yeah, so again, a few cards I'm probably not satisfied. I'll probably have to bring this back into the lab. Figure out what needs to be changed. Alright, that's it for tonight.